So, dann wollen wir mal gucken, ob das vielleicht sogar schon der letzte Part ist. 24th October, 11:53 a.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Ah, the Knight Errant himself. Oh, have you been watching from the gallery, Mr. Sholmes? I've been on the edge of my seat the entire time. Courtroom trials are fascinating affairs, as a spectator at least. I'm glad you've been enjoying yourself. I have to ask. What on earth is going on? It makes no sense. What's this professor business all about? He doesn't look like any professor I've ever met before. Who even is he? Ah, of course. You were in Germany already 10 years ago. Yes, the professor. When I discovered he was the one who had been abducted, a sense of foreboding stirred within me. But who knew the monster would come knocking at your door? My heart felt sympathies. As it turns out, Lord Van Zieks is even more intimately tied to this case than any of us realize, isn't he? Ja, nicht nur ist sein Freund angeklagt, der Professor, der seinen Bruder umgebracht hat, hat auch was damit zu tun. So, yes, how true. His great friend from university in the dock. And now, a waxwork of the killer who took his esteemed brother's life makes an appearance too. I imagine even the shrewd Mr. Reaper failed to foresee that kick in the teeth. An extraordinary move on your part, my dear fellow, to throw that in front of the man. You make it sound deliberate. Ja, haben wir alles mit Absicht gemacht. I can't help feeling that this professor case is really very puzzling. Oh yes, in what particular manner? Well, there's Mr. Drebber, Dr. Seiss, and Lord Van Zieks. It seems that everybody in the trial has a link to the case somehow. Yes, in fact, I alone am not a member of the set. Though that leaves me as an empty set, all alone with no intersection to any other. Excuse me? Oh. The Dr. Seiss. Ah, Dr. Courtney Seiss, nee Stevens. Good day to you. Hello, Sholmes. That was very shrewd of you. What in particular, pray? You requested the 10-year-old autopsy report from Gregson, didn't you? Why would you assume such a thing? Ach ja, stimmt, hat er ja gemacht. Because Gregson told me. To think it's been 10 years. 10 years in the laboratory, wielding my scalpel. I smell of nothing but corpses and disinfectant. A policeman on the jury had a lot to say about you as it happens, Dr. Seiss. And I've accused you of being complicit in what happened. I'm hoping that you'll take the stand and tell the truth about what really happened. That certainly won't be possible. Lord Van Zieks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Lord Strongheart? Warum hat Lord Strongheart das verboten? Na gut, es ist eine enge Vertraute von ihm, aber trotzdem. The Pandora's box you were warned about. It's a professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it out of me. But attempting to hide from the truth. That's cowardice. I've always fought crime in the way that I see fit. I have no regrets. None at all. And that's all I came here to say. So, good day to you. Dieser Professor-Case, ne? Der wird ja... Es fühlt sich so an, als ob der erst im Finale kommt, ne? Weil das... Bei Ace Attorney zum Beispiel, beim Ace Attorney 1 gab es den DL6-Fall, wo Edgeworth quasi angeklagt war, seinen Vater umgebracht zu haben, was später Manfred von Kramer war. Kleiner Spoiler hier an der Stelle. Aber das wurde auch immer wieder erwähnt, um dann im finalen Fall letztendlich behandelt zu werden. Und hier dieser Professor-Case ist genauso, aber ich habe nicht das Gefühl, dass der im Finale kommt. Ich habe das Gefühl, dass er jetzt schon kommt. Und dann frage ich mich, wo soll das alles noch hinführen? Wir sind erst in der Mitte des Spiels. Ich bin sehr gespannt. She mentioned it too. This Pandora's box. Whatever does it all mean? There's really no cause for concern. I assure you, when the trial resumes, the meaning will become all too apparent, whether you'd like it or not. Huh? Now then, I believe it's almost time. I must make my way back to the public gallery. The edge of my seat awaits. Herlock weiß auch auf jeden Fall mehr, als dass er uns sagt. I think maybe you're enjoying yourself a little too much. Ah, yes. One word of warning before I go. If, in the course of the trial this afternoon, you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. Like a dog with a bone. To the bitter end, you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. Alright, I understand. Thank you. Da muss doch mehr hinterstecken. Da muss doch mehr hinterstecken. Ich bin gespannt. Good. I shall make myself scarce then. I purchased a bar of caramel earlier, so I shall be gnawing on that as we gnaw away the truth. What did that warning from Mr. Sholmes really mean, I wonder? Especially the bit about whatever may come to pass. Ich glaube nicht, dass er meint, dass Hairbrain schuldig ist, weil Hairbrain wirkt nicht schuldig, anders als McGilde damals. Aber wir werden sehen. Oh mein Gott, jetzt bin ich schon wieder hype. It's time for the final chapter then. I'm determined to find the truth. No matter what. Oh mein Gott. Oh mein Gott. Das wird nice, denke ich, glaube ich, hoffe ich. 24th October. 12:40 p.m. The Old Bailey Courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsel for defense and prosecution, are you ready and able to continue? The prosecution is ready, my lord. Yes, my lord. The defense is also ready. As the court is aware, the case under our scrutiny began with a damaging incident at the Great Exhibition. Yet, we now find ourselves embroiled in the details of a convicted felon who was sent to the gallows a decade ago. This trial has certainly defied all expectation, as seems to be the fate of all trials in which this Nipponese is involved, my lord. So then, let us begin our exploration of the defense's assertion that the waxwork was cardinally involved in this matter. Lord von Zieks. My lord? Are we still awaiting the arrival of Madame Tuspels? Not at all. She is in the antechamber as we speak, and ready to be summoned. Very well. Bring in the witness. At once, my lord. Bailiff, show Madame Tuspels to the stand. Things are about to become a lot more intense. If Drebber is responsible, as I'm sure he is, it means he must have had an accomplice, in Dr. Seiss. And what connects the pair of them is the waxwork. Yes, the model of the professor. That's the key to the link between these otherwise unrelated individuals. It's a tenuous link, admittedly, but at present, it's all we have to go on. Nein. State your name and occupation for the court, please. My name is Madame Esmeralda Tuspels. I'm a waxwork artisan, die gerade einen Wachskopf von Herrn Herlock Sholmes anfertigt. Naja, wenn er jetzt nicht mal für sie arbeitet, ne? Weil wir die Kosten übernehmen, dann braucht sie halt eine echte Waxfigur. and the proprietors of the Madame Tussauds Museum of Waxwork. You will have to pardon me for working as I testify. My new exhibit must open very soon. Oh, so he finally gets a statue, does he? Now there are 2 of them in the world. Oh my, what expression is she carving onto that face? A number of days ago, a particular waxwork model was stolen from your museum. Can you confirm this? Oui, that is true. At first, we believed it had been kidnapped. A waxwork model? Kidnapped? Yes, my lord. There was a demand for ransom money left behind by the culprit. However, according to what I have just been told outside the courtroom, that was not the true reason. I understand it was utilized as a substitute for the body of a murder victim. At present, there is no more than conjecture proposed by the defense. This is the victim of the case in question, Mr. O.D. Assman. But of course, I know him well. He's a part of my odious personage's exhibit. I detest to say what is evident, but Mr. Assman does not resemble the professor at all. Yes, but perhaps the faces are very similar. Are you suggesting that we should see now the demasked visage of the professor? I have here the key, but it is strictly forbidden to open the lock. This is absurd. Pardon? I don't know what face you've carved onto your fancy figure beneath that mask. But clearly, it won't be that of the actual killer. Indeed. The man's identity was never made public after all. The trial took place in a closed court. The proceedings were strictly confidential. The condemned man was summarily executed. His identity remains a closely guarded national secret. There's no possible way that the repository of tawdry exhibits could get its hand on that information. Quel dommage. It would seem you are unaware of the Tussauds principles. What principles? The family Tussauds had always prided itself on sculpting its models à la perfection. Every detail, including the visage, is fashioned with complete fidelity. Et voilà our principles. There's a well-known legend about the Tussauds waxworks from the time of the French Revolution. A member of the Tussauds family is said to have made a waxwork of the queen who was executed. Oui, that is true. It was a century ago now. I believe the queen's face was carved in the minutes following her death, actually at the guillotine site. You are correct, the model is on display still today in the House of Horrors. We Tussauds will stop at nothing to obtain a faithful replica of our subjects. Dear me, a somewhat disturbing tenacity, of course, of purpose. It is the only way to obtain a truly lifelike representation of the subject. And it has been my family's secret for generations. Do you mean to say that beneath that mask? Oui, the true visage of the killer is there. This is ludicrous. It's out of the question. The professor spread terror throughout Great Britain. As a result, the Madame Tussauds special exhibit remains extremely popular even today. The killer, emerging from his own grave. It is a sight to behold, you should come. I think, Madame, it would be beneficial to hear your formal testimony on this matter. Ich möchte das Gesicht sehen, nicht eine Testimony haben. You will explain every detail of this macabre model, and your personal involvement in its creation. With pleasure. Okay, witness testimony. The Professor Waxwork. The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse, in accordance with Tussauds family principles. I enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night. As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered. Okay. The Gravedigger. The man sanctions this. Oui, I will do all that is necessary to achieve the true resemblance my family is celebrated for. Nobody else knew, only the Gravedigger. What harm did it do, huh? So you truly saw it. The face of that monster. Naturally, I was aware at the time that his identity was a secret. But Tusperis would not be Tusperis if we did not insist on absolute fidelity to our sculptures. I don't believe this. I myself have seen the special exhibit at your museum, madame. A truly blood-curdling scene, in which the murderer is emerging from his own grave. The scene depicts was a subject of many rumors in London 10 years ago. I have here a newspaper from the time. Oh god. The special exhibit was based upon the picture in this article. It was the most detailed account of what happened as reported by the eyewitness who saw it. Mr. Drebber's dreadful encounter. Okay. Was ich übrigens interessant finde, dass ich noch gar nicht erwähnt habe, weil es mir gar nicht aufgefallen ist, dass da einfach eine Nummer draufsteht, Nummer 139. Then again ist der Name auch nicht bekannt, ne? Von dem Professor, aber dass da einfach eine Nummer auf dem Grab steht, finde ich auch interessant. Na gut, vielleicht damit keine Grabschändung zustande kommt. I don't know. Und was ich übrigens auch interessant finde, ist der Name, der da unten auf dem Foto steht. Assman? Steht da etwa Assman? Scheinbar schon. It was a most detailed account of what happened as reported by the eyewitness who saw it. The 10-year-old article has been entered into the court record, a newspaper article recounting the tale of an eyewitness to the alleged resurrection of the professor from his grave on the night of his execution. Man rises from the grave. It's too absurd for words. Okay. Mad Sheep Rampant, Charles Darwin to receive Copley Medal, The Great Sting. The Great Sting. The Foul Issue. Okay. Assman. Okay. Man rises from the grave. It's too absurd for words. The public enjoy absurdity, monsieur. That is why I have reproduced the scene as carefully as possible in my museum. And it's the waxwork from that exhibit that was stolen some days before the incident at the Great Exhibition, wasn't it? That is correct. The professor you see before you here. Most puzzling. Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. This waxwork links Drebber to Dr. Seiss. And there has to be some reason for that, which hasn't yet come to light. But I'll find it. I'll get to the bottom of what really happened. I'll prove that Dr. Seiss and Drebber were in on this crime together. Und Assman stand da auch drauf. Warum auch immer. Cross-examinations, the Professor Waxwork. The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London. Hold it! And that rumor would be a 10-year-old tale now, but one that no Londoner would ever forget. Ah, right, I know just what you're talking about, I think. Of course, it couldn't be anything else. Yes, that story will never disappear. The tale of the condemned killer rising from the dead. That is the central attraction of my House of Horrors. The rumor was whispered all over the city, and it was like this. It was in Lowgate Cemetery behind the prison, in the dead of night after the execution of the killer. The interred professor sat back the stone slab covering his tomb and emerged from his grave. A young man who witnessed this felt a scream welling up inside him. But an instant later, he heard an ear-splitting gunshot from over his shoulder. The bullet struck the emerging corpse, and he fell motionless once more. The scream finally found its way from the mouth of the young witness, who turned and ran for his life. Also wurde angeschossen, auch der Professor. The corpse climbed out of his own grave. And then somebody shot him? Who was it? Nobody knows, even today. But remember, it was just a rumor, perhaps nothing more than a ghost story. The good people of London, they love stories like this. That is why I was in every newspaper across the capital. But was it just a story? I mean, this is exactly the scene that can be seen today at your museum, isn't it? Oui, the special exhibit was modeled on that various illustration. For a while afterwards, the contents of that article were reproduced in every newspaper imaginable. Madame, might I say something? Please go ahead, mademoiselle. When something is described as a rumor, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's entirely made up. I believe that often, rumors contain elements of the truth. Ah, I see that people from the East can be just as astute as the people of Europe. Can we be sure, for instance, that the professor's execution was successful? It is not possible for the dead to come back to life. Außer man ist bei Walking Dead. Sorry? 10 years ago now, I was there in Lowgate Cemetery, after the criminal known as the Professor was killed by hanging. I took a wax impression of his visage from the corpse just before it was interred. So I can assure you, the man was dead. I see. Aber was hat der Name von Assman da drauf zu tun? Auf dem... Weil das wird ja nicht für meine Theorie sprechen, dass Assman der Professor ist. Das wird ja definitiv nicht dafür sprechen. It would certainly appear that the condemned man suffered the intended fate. Oder vielleicht doch, weil er dann noch lebt? I don't know. Wir werden es erfahren. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse, in accordance with to spare's family principles.
Hold it!
Is that true of every waxwork in your museum then? It is, assuming the subject is dead, of course. Live subjects have to cooperate in a similar way. I have letters from imprisoned criminals all the time, you know? What sort of letters? When my time comes, please make a waxwork of me. Comme ça. No. My museum is famous, monsieur. To be made into a waxwork is an honor, and for some criminals a symbol of status even. Because nothing says hardened criminal better than wax. And it is thanks to one killer in particular that my museum has gained such popularity in London. I refer to the star of the special exhibit, of course, the Professor, whose form you claim to have captured by taking an impression from the actual corpse. There are no exceptions to the principles of two spares. I enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment.
Hold it!
Surely that's illegal, isn't it? It would seem the proprietors of this repository of novelties was blinded by monetary greed. It had nothing to do with money. The man is part of London's criminal history. That is why I had to sculpt him, to record his history, to record. It is the raison d'etre of the Tusperis Museum. But if the man was convicted in a closed court and sent for immediate execution, then surely nobody but the members of the judiciary present know the killer's true identity. I assure you, behind that mask is hidden the true face of the Professor. Do you realize what you are saying? The Professor's identity is a national secret. I understand. Aber warum ist es ein National Secret, ist die Frage. And now that the truth about the special exhibit has been revealed, it must perhaps close. Of course it will, as will your entire museum if you don't tread very carefully, madam. That could be another interesting chapter in the history of my family, I think, don't you? So 10 years ago, on the night of the professor's execution, he took a wax impression of his face from the corpse. Oui, exactement. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night.
Hold it!
You were there longer than you expected to be. I had some difficulties in capturing the subject's form correctly. As I removed the mask, the mouth of the cadaver fell open and I had some problems with the chin. Dare I ask? The man had been dead for a short while already, you see? His muscles were relaxing and consequently his chin would not align itself correctly. Oh dear, what a horrible thought. Under normal circumstances I would have an assistant with me. However, that night I was alone, and as a consequence I missed my preferred window of time. What do you mean? When I take the impression of the visage of a cadaver, I always wait until 3 hours after death. Why 3 hours? Is that amount of time significant? It is because of rigor mortis. Oh, rigor mortis. Totenstarre oder was ist das? Toten ist rigor mortis. Rigor mortis. Leichenstarre, okay. Weekly mortis? It's a name given to a phenomenon that occurs in recently deceased bodies. As a rule, 3 hours post-death, the muscles in the body begin to stiffen. By approximately 10 hours post-death, the entire body is completely rigid and inflexible. And then, from that point on, the muscles slowly start to revert to the relaxed state. The effect is often used to estimate the time of death when a body is discovered. Well, that was an education, with a slightly scary one. But it's a name given by a phenomenon that occurs in recently deceased bodies. 3 hours post-death, the muscles in the body begin to stiffen. 10 hours post-death, the entire body is completely rigid and inflexible. And from that point on, the muscles slowly start to revert to the relaxed state. Okay. As the mademoiselle says, rigor mortis commences 3 hours after death, and it starts in the jaw. I see. So that's why you wait. Before that time, the mouth falls open, and it is very difficult to do my work. It's getting hard for me to do my work, with all this talk of corpses. I wonder about the information the court just heard from Madame Tussauds. It's significant. The information about rigor mortis that you just shared with us. Would you mind including it in your formal testimony? I believe it could be significant, you see? Of course, I do not mind at all. I can't help feeling that after this latest topic, the atmosphere in the courtroom has become extremely grave. Den hast du jetzt nicht gebracht, Susato. Den hast du jetzt nicht gebracht. Extremely grave, also auf eine Art schwer und auf andere Art grav, ne? Susato! This is no time for jokes, Miss Susato.